probably would mention that and call it my most disappointing aspect because it's got to do with my gender. It's paternity fraud. So if I have a child with you, please, go and conduct private tests. Don't even tell me. Carry out a secret DNA. If you realize it's not your own, do with me what you wish. But if you trace it now back to our forefathers and you realize there's so many parts, your grandfather may not be the child of his father.
I won't be surprised.
The relationship is basically either promiscuity or infidelity. It's usually the problem that most people in relationships.
What about the financial side in the relationship?
And the financial side now, and they also lead to the other side. You know, they say naturally, romance without finance is annoyance. So that's part of the problem.
I want to hear that again. Romance without finance is annoyance. So is democracy working for Nigeria for the last 24 years?
So we, first of all, I'd like to say, is democracy working for Africa? So, you know, the reason I have to even say that is because we only practice democracy because the Western world thinks that that's the best thing for us. It's not because we actually reasoned that that's the best form of government for ourselves.
And people think a country like Canada practices democracy, but we have a prime minister. Canada has a prime minister, not a president.
I know.
And I think people don't understand the implication or the difference. Even the Britain has a prime minister and not a president. Because it's a monarchy.
It's a monarchy.
Canada is a legislative democracy, but actually a constitutional monarchy. Right? The prime minister you see is not as powerful as people think they are.
He's a figurehead.
It's a figurehead. The governor general of the country, which nobody knows about, has way more power, appoints Supreme Court judges and stuff like that. Welcome. This is No Right, No Wrong. My name remains CT, and I'm back with another guest. A return guest, but I'm excited to get into other topics that we couldn't get into. I'm going to introduce my guest, Precious. Yes. Welcome again.
Thank you. It was quite an intense conversation the last time.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here again.
Yes, I'm excited. I just felt like we didn't get into everything that you actually
You want to finish me. Just want to remove all my head.
I want to your podcast. Get everything that I can get. You squeeze the orange.
You're milking. You just say squeeze orange. I don't have to look at myself. Like, are you talking to me directly?
Yes, so basically, I'm excited to get into the other things that you do. Okay. This one is going to be more, I think I've gotten to know a little bit of what you do. So it's basically to kind of, let's just talk about it, your opinions about what's going on. Okay. The last time we talked, you talked about your current projects is basically into political commentary in general. So I wanted to start by asking you what your opinion is on what the current political landscape is in Nigeria.
My opinion of the current political landscape in difference will be same as my opinion in what's going on in politics or the current political landscape in Africa at large. I do believe that we're not there yet. Mm-hmm. So you see, the thing is, I hate it when we often say that that our leaders are a reflection of who we are. I do not believe that because I don't see why, for instance, former President Muhammadu Buhari is a reflection of me. He's not me in any way. Do you understand?
Yeah.
No offense. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
So I do not believe that our leaders are a reflection of who we are. So, most times when people say, that the leaders of any country is a reflection of who the people are. Nigerians don't deserve the kind of leaders that they have. Because Nigerians don't even come out and truly pick those leaders. Shebina, when we vote them and our votes count, that's when we say, this is it. Because I think that those things are said because of the quality of choices people make. Mm. In circumstances where choices actually work. But with what happens in politics, especially as it's got to do with Nigeria and Africa, your choice doesn't matter. And choices don't work. Basically, that's the way it is. So it's like it's some, I don't want to say abracadabra. It's some grab it, snatch it, take it thing or selection process that works. Mm-hmm. So I think that the electoral umpires in Nigeria really, or Africa really have a lot of work to do. And beyond electoral umpires, I think that even the politicians themselves should begin to have a rethink. More because, before now, people didn't used to send them. People didn't really care about what they did or not do, because people just felt, our leaders now, But now people are becoming more interested. People need to know how they are governed. And the easiest part of this is that Africans, especially Nigerians, are not even difficult to govern.
You think so?
Yes, Nigerians are not demanding, they don't demand anything intrinsic or anything difficult from their leaders. You see them demand what is their fundamental human right alone. That's what they demand. Have you ever seen any election in Nigeria where the politicians don't tell you the same old stories? Oh, I'll give you light. Oh, good education. Oh, good road. Oh, healthcare. Oh, water. Which are your basic? Tell me in Canada where you are. Shebi Theodore Abina waiting with that your fine guy prime minister, president. Ingo carry road content you say Ingo use and do campaign. Do you understand me? So nobody, in developed world or in developed climes, nobody will use basic things that you need to campaign as something that those are your fundamental human rights. So Nigerians are pretty much appreciative of any political leader that would just give them their fundamental human rights. For instance, I pay taxes in Nigeria, but I dug my own borehole. I provide water for myself. And I'll pay government to dig that borehole. That I'm giving myself water. I have solar panel in my house. I'm providing lights for myself.
Yeah.
Even my own security I'm providing. So tell me one reason why Nigerians would have to be paying taxes. What are we doing with our tax money? Apart from enriching our politicians. Of what benefits is really the tax money? So I think that, African leaders should be, more innovative on how they go about things because Africa is one of the richest continents in terms of mineral resources. But we happen to be the poorest. Because what actually drives economy? Mineral resources?
Exports.
I'm just saying mineral resources, human resources. Because now the human beings, it's the human beings that you use to, refine those natural resources. But we have these natural resources in abundance in Africa. And we have abundance of human resources. But what do we now do? Mismanagement. We don't have the right management. And who manages them anyway? Leaders. And it's all about politics. Now, you don't have leaders thrive to be involved in politics because they want to serve you. No, they are coming to join politics so you can serve them, so that the people can serve them. Because once they get in there, they become Lord and Master. To what they eat, to how they smell, to their body odor, no, not body odor, to their mouth odor, no, not mouth odor. To everything about them, we fund. We basically fund their lifestyle. How do they in turn treat the citizens? How accessible are they to the citizens that voted them in power? How often do they communicate to the people who voted them into power?
The thing is that I don't think they feel like they were voted in power anyway. So
maybe perhaps because they were not actually voted.
Exactly, that's my point, right?
I get you.
So it's almost like I'm going to work towards getting more money so that when the next election cycle comes on, I have enough money to do what I did
before
to get it.
I agree.
So
it's sad. It's a very sad development, but that's like the reality
of the political landscape. And it goes back to the point, right? Like in my opinion, I always say, like what you said, if they don't think the people voted them into power, they do what actually would get them back in there. For me personally, when I look at the Western politics, I think it's all a game of public perception because the people actually vote you into power. So whatever moves their emotions, you tell them whether it's
because they
realistic or
care
not.
about their people, and they know that if they get it wrong in terms of public perception, they're not going to enter power. But in Africa, no African leader cares about public perception. It's the more you look, the less you see. How many of them actually have debates? Invite them for debate, they'll call your bluff because they will get the power anyway. They actually don't need your votes to win. They're just telling you vote for me just for formality purposes because they actually do not need you to win. So it's that hard. That bad. But should that be democracy? Should that be?
Which takes me to my next point about the democracy in general. Have we ever sat down and thought if as a country, we should be running democracy. Is it working? So let's use for an example.
Okay.
We've been running democracy now since 1999 till now. At least in your opinion, compared to where we were in 99, let's leave the autocratic part of the military. Is democracy working for Nigeria for the last 24 years?
So we first of all, I'd like to say, is democracy working for Africa, or has it worked for Africa?
I will get to Africa because
you know the reason I had to even say that is because we only practice democracy because the Western world thinks that that's the best thing for us. It's not because we actually reasoned that that's the best form of government for ourselves.
And I have to also mention the top economies in the world. Many of them don't practice democracy that
China,
we are
do
trying.
they practice democracy?
Not really.
Are they not working?
Russia, is it really democracy or a front-facing democracy?
Is Russia not working? With all the pressure in Russia right now, they are still
the
surviving.
Middle East still run a very monarchy system. A lot of
are they not succeeding? I mean, look at, you're talking about the Middle East.
Let me use an example.
Now, the same oil that they have is the same. See what happened in the just concluded World Cup
about
the same
organization.
Oil that your country, exactly the same oil that your country has is what they have.
Yeah.
But see what they've been able to make out of their oil. What have you made out of your oil?
And it's important because we're trying to practice a democracy that, in my opinion, I will use Canada, US, UK, for example. People think a country like Canada practices democracy, but we have a prime minister. Canada has a prime minister, not a president.
I know.
And I think people don't understand the implication or the difference. Even the Britain has a prime minister and not a president. Because it's a monarchy.
It's a monarchy.
Canada is a legislative democracy, but actually a constitutional monarchy. Right? The prime minister you see is not as powerful as people think they are.
He's a figurehead.
It's a figurehead. The governor general of the country, which nobody knows about, has way more power, appoints Supreme Court judges and stuff like that, because the country understands that they preach democracy, but they don't practice it to the earnest, for the people, by the people. Like, for example, prime minister, the people only vote their MPs, which is like your House of Rep or senators, yes, right? And when you vote them, you trust them to appoint a prime minister. They don't, is the leader of the party that won or that has the most people that appoints. So the people don't even get to choose who the president is.
So that means they must vote someone that they know that will make the right choice.
Thank you. So at the highest level, you're voting the people that would help you make the right choice. That kind
of system cannot work in Nigeria. Trust.
But that's my point, right?
My local government chairman, or trust my
exactly to represent me and trust. Put the right person at the top.
How have they? No, it's very risky in Africa.
Exactly. So there's the UK, there's the Canada doing that. Then the US doesn't even use popular votes. They do something called electoral colleges.
Electoral, I was going to say that. They have electoral colleges.
Even these developed countries.
So why popular votes may be there, electoral college
is there. So while these countries, I keep asking myself, these countries pitch democracy to the world and to the countries that they colonize and all that. But they go about understanding that actually achieving the kind of idealistic democracy that we think about, it's very difficult because of the bureaucracy and also the idealistic thought that every vote counts equally. But that's not really what they're doing.
Yes.
That's not what they're doing, because
and you know that's what Africa has been battling with.
Yeah.
Ensuring that every vote counts.
It's a very difficult thing to do. It's a very and most countries have left it and adjusted it.
Yeah, so why are we now under pressure to do that? That is, who hold us on neck? Are we on chokehold that we must practice this form of democracy? I mean, Nigeria single-handedly chose the United States kind of democracy.
Yeah.
The two parliament thing, upper and lower chambers, and all of that, which is very expensive to run.
Exactly.
Why are we doing it? And if we understand our peculiarities.
But it also creates a high level of bureaucracy. When something when something negative is about to be done, checks and balances. But people also forget when something positive is about to be done, then there are also forces
I
fighting.
I don't agree with you with checks and balances. Like I have my mouth open looking at it. Checks and balances in a country where the legislature or the legislative and the executive are twins.
No, but I mean,
in fact, the legislature is like a younger brother or younger. In fact, the executive is the uncle of them all. He's the of them all.
I mean,
where executive? Did you not see that Akpabio had to take permission when they were clearing Kayamo? He had to call a break during the clearing session, a screening session. He went to Aso Rock, took permission and came back again. Then now approved him. Hello.
No,
Do you understand what I mean? But ideally, I'm sorry that I had to cut you because ideally, the legislative is our legislature is supposed to be a totally different arm of government that is independent on its own.
Yeah.
Taking its independent decision, checkmating what you people are doing in executive, and also making our rules. Yeah. But one law, tell me one law that will pass now that we don't take permission from executive.
It's very interesting. Even while I wanted to ask you, one thing I wanted to ask, because I'm not as plugged into Nigerian politics, what, in terms of our legislative arm and creating laws, because in my opinion, right, you set the constitution, but things change, things adjust, right? That's why you have representatives. Has there been any major legislative laws that has been passed that has been significant in recent years?
Well, so the thing is, we have laws, right? And laws have been passed.
I mean, like amended or stuff like that.
Oh, yes. We have laws that have been amended, that passed and amended again and all that. But I think that most of our laws are not very watertight. So I don't think they actually do their due diligence, because understanding how, I'm trying not to be, I'm trying to be fair. Yeah. But understanding how Nigerian politicians are, that they would always want to find their way out one way or the other. So you don't make a law that leaves a loophole for them to escape.
Are they intentionally leaving loopholes?
I don't. For instance, you made.
Or it's just a lack of knowledge or lack of understanding.
For instance, let's look at this election. Who told you lack of knowledge? Let's look at this election now. You pass an electoral act, and you put all the rules that you put. Then you gave the clause that INEC deserves the right to choose their mode of transmission. Yeah. Then you also did not put a clause that makes it possible to hold INEC accountable on any guideline that they've actually passed out to be used on a certain election. Yeah. So in that case, INEC has the freedom to do away with any guideline that they brought out. Like I can tell you people now that I'll conduct the election by you coming out to stamp your voting paper. And then when you come to stand your voting paper, I tell you that someone will count it one by one in front of you. That's how you know the votes are counted. But I may not change my mind that, apart from counting the votes one by one, we can decide to gather your votes and go to my village to count it. Do you understand? Because they are the, election empire. And they deserve the right to do that, because that's exactly what played out with the tribunal judgments, with what went down with the mode of transmission. How can INEC often over and over again assure Nigerians that they will transmit results in real time? In real time. I don't know if I did understand that there's been a lot of voter apathy in Nigeria over the years. And one of the reasons why this election is the most talked after is because people thought their vote would really count, because INEC did assure that they're bringing in technology and that votes will be counted and uploaded real time. Yeah. So people had assurance, okay, if you're transmitting my vote real time, there is no way for Mago. So I will vote. That means my vote will count. Because ordinarily, Nigerians don't believe that their votes will count. That's why they don't come to contest for election. That's why they don't come to a vote during elections. You see guys playing football on the streets and all that during election day. But the reason why people defile rain to take part in this past election is because there was an awareness, and that was because of the assurance that INEC gave. And what did the court now say? Because INEC's assurance were mere promises. But you don't penalize them for failing on their words. And you don't penalize them for not giving you the real reason of whatever glitch that stopped them from holding onto their words till date. Because till date, we don't even understand the nature of glitch that INEC experienced that hindered them from, transmitting the presidential election real time. We still don't know. They said it's a hitch. A hitch is a hitch. What nature of hitch? Are we dummies? Because if you say technological hitch, call the name of the technological hitch. We get experts, then we go, find out. Do you understand? But you're not telling Nigerians anything. And then you pass judgments without, at least in one way or the other, holding INEC accountable for not doing what they said they should do. What that means is that I should believe that the governor of my state can come out to say that, I'll make your lives better during his campaign. But he ended up making my life more miserable, and I don't have the right to hold him accountable because, his words were mere promises. Yeah. Then what's the essence of the democracy and leadership? So that's what I mean, that we have a long way to go. We need to begin to put the best of us, forward. during elections. And it's so sad that, because of the dirty game in politics, the best wouldn't actually want to, play in the mud.
But that gets me back to my question. Are they actually the best if they don't want to play in the mud? It's always something I always tell myself is, or I always ask is it always the people that we consider bad? Are they always the ones willing to actually take the risk? Well, if it's such a daily game, why are the best people, so called, not willing to actually get in there and actually do it or get it done? So my thing is, anyhow you play politics, just like a lot of occupations, it's hard, right? And let's use, for example, business. A lot of businesses fail, right? You try. So even if you're going with good intention into politics, right? Sometimes it will not work out. But if you want to be successful at it, most times you keep going at it. And I always keep asking, in terms of our politics, the excuse I always hear from the best of us in most things is, oh, there are too many bad people there for me to actually go in. It's never going to be cleaned up if the best people don't actually take up the challenge, right?
All right.
So it's very interesting to me in that way, because the difference between good and bad, like from an outside, it's very difficult to actually tell the difference. Most times, in my opinion, they usually sound the same. That's why somebody can come and make an argument for anything, negatively or positively. But when you look at Nigerian politics, I always ask, right? A lot of people make commentaries or talk about it, but at what point will the people with the best intention ready to actually play in the mud in the politics?
To respond to your questions is when we let the institution work. Is when we put out institutions and have a functional system.
That's a key point. You said a functional system.
So we have. I don't even believe that we do really have a working system in Nigeria.
I actually don't think we have a very functional system.
So it's because I'm not sure that anyone who values their integrity would want to get meddled in, what we have right now, because it will stain you, it will dirty your shirt. You understand? So but if there is a functional system and you know that this thing I'm getting into, because you believe in the system, so you'd want to get into it, because the system will naturally push away, will sieve the wheat from the shaft. Let me just say that. So I think it's a functional system that we need. I feel like those who are enjoying from the wrath of the unfunctional system are ensuring that the systems don't work.
That's actually true. And that's really where people have to actually be like, we need to create one. How do we go about creating? Because to me, it starts with the system, like as you said, right? Something people can actually believe in and actually work towards, right? How do you create those systems? Because, and that takes me back to my question, is democracy doing a good job for us for the last 24 years of helping create the system? Because those lawmakers are the people, even in terms of both the lawmakers, the executive supporting processes that can actually create an actual system. Is democracy even working in creating that system?
So I think that democracy has ended up enriching very poor people with low backgrounds, with backgrounds that they never imagined they would soar in life, with no name and no family. Like I said, I don't have family
without,
name. It had just
it enriches them without people, qualifications, without
it has ended up enriching people more than it actually helps the lives of the people. That's just basically. So if one of the reasons why we have high rate in crime today is because every young man wants to just make quick money, because the easiest way to make money is either you do, you're dubious or you're a politician. Because you see someone who's a politician, the next minute first of all, how much are their salaries and allowances that, permits them to live the kind of life that they live if they are not involved in one dubious act or the other?
It's the most profitable career right now in Nigeria, right?
You see, so it's a thing. So in the past, you don't be saying politics. Is politics the profession really? Is politics a profession?
I had that conversation.
Will you not have like, a business or a job or stuff? Then politics is like, politics is more like an association. I mean, that's the way I would rather look at it. More like an association. More like, but then politics. Don't say that.
I
Politics
think
in
an
Nigeria.
argument can be made for it being an actual career and a job. In the sense that, let's say, for example, lawmakers, if they were to do their jobs properly, let's say
How many of the
committees,
lawmakers have law background? Oh,
but
please.
it doesn't have to be law background. It just has to be the ability to understand how to.
How many of them actually are informed about law? How many of them are even that? Did you not hear
No,
that? Did you
that's
not hear that
interesting.
in a certain state, a particular state, in recent time or recently, I don't want to mention the state, they had to tell the judges to go and get their law to get their law to go to law school.
So you're
They are
saying,
already judges of a state, though,
but they
they don't
didn't
know
have
law.
their
They
law.
no be law students. Do you understand?
But for me, that's the system too that allows such appointments.
Understand? A system where what works in the north doesn't work in the south.
Yeah.
Why are you saying like that now? A system where there is a common entrance examination of schools in Nigeria, but the cutoff point for you in a particular geopolitical zone is different from my own cutoff point.
How does that
But
work?
at the end of the day, we'll all go to the same school
And be in the same house of
and
representatives.
we'll graduate to do the same work and perhaps represent the same country. How do you even beat that?
That's interesting.
How do you beat that?
For me, asking that question is, what's the justification for that? I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh, so the justification is that, people from this part of the world don't like going to parts of the country, don't like going to school. So we bring down a cutoff points to encourage them, and all that. Now, how about the standard?
Yeah.
So because you don't like going to school, you water down my hard work to the detriment of the inefficiency of someone who doesn't like studying.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
that make sense?
And it also generally changes the standard or levels that things are actually done.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of what we're saying is when we talk about like all the standards, when we talk about the standards or what we call basic and all that, we usually have a comparison to either developed countries or stuff like that, right? And what that really means is, if we're comparing it, if we're going to execute the same thing, there has to be a similar level of knowledge for it to do. But if the standards is like you don't have to meet high standards, then what is going to be produced will also be substandard stuff, right? In general. And that gets me back to the other conversation with it, right? Outside of that's the democratic political landscape. But one thing I've been thinking about recently, especially, let's talk about the recent we're going to go to Africa first before we talk about that, but the recent coups, especially in West Africa in general. Is there, in your opinion, do you see African countries and people actually looking at democracy and being like, it's not working? Like, what is the trend actually going on that a lot of people are talking about right now?
Okay, so before I go ahead to answer that, let me quickly also do justice. The other question you did ask, you mentioned, what we have enjoyed during military versus how, democracy has
Oh, yeah,
worked
the
for us.
comparison
And I
before we
wanted
go
to
there.
even say, I thought to quickly drop this. Most of the infrastructures that we're enjoying today were, done during the military era.
Yeah.
The almighty Third Mainland Bridges, that most of the things, see, Lagos Ibadan Expressway, Obasanjo stand up, worked on it. Jonathan stand up, worked on it. Buhari worked on it. It's still being worked on under Tinubu's head. Just one road. One road. Do you understand? Is it a crime to have facilities that work? How much of those have we enjoyed within the past 24 years of democracy? Meanwhile, this is actually the kind of government that should have actually given us more access to more stuffs, more facilities, more infrastructure. How many of them have we enjoyed? And the ones that we managed to get is overinflated. You don't even want to talk about that price. So there's a recent issue about the road construction in a particular community, that the road construction is what, 9.8 billion naira. And lawmakers overinflated it to 54.3 billion naira.
And nobody's
people in Ministry
actually
of Works
following
versus
up.
lawmakers. Check out the difference. Over 44 billion naira increment.
In few
billion.
people's pockets.
They mention this money, it's like it gives you headache.
Yeah.
That is the kind of thing we're enjoying in democracy. Yes, we know we have our own issues with military, by the way, because I wouldn't be talking like this if it was military government, because who bomb me? They will source me out. That kind of
you
thing.
talk
So
against the
I
government
know
to
we
criticize
get that
them.
freedom, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
The downside for it is worse.
Yeah.
It's worse because these natural resources that we're lavishing and throwing away and treating anyhow, one day to end or maybe become not so useful. What would happen to you?
For example,
And then all of this money that the politicians or those who are in charge are gathering, what would they do with it at the end of the day? For instance, you have a situation where we have mineral resources. There is no state in Nigeria that is not blessed with more than one mineral resources, natural resources. Not one state that is not blessed with more than one natural resources. But you see states who will tell you, oh, we're a civil service state, so we cannot, don't have industries, we cannot pay salaries. Every month end, they will go and collect money from Abuja allocation that is coming from crude oil. So without the crude oil of the Niger Delta, Nigeria would not be a country. From everywhere you are, you go and collect allocation. How about thinking of how to harness, the natural resources that you have to the benefit of the people? We have a situation where the crude oil in the Niger Delta belongs to the Niger Delta, but the oil in Zamfara, the gold in Zamfara, the gold in other parts of the north belongs to the north. So
That's
you see them mining gold every time. You think these governors don't know that they're mining? Why do you think we have banditry and terrorism in the north?
Yeah.
To make the place unstable, for them to be, evacuating the natural resources. Do you think it's
an old trick?
Do you think it's by mistake, really, that one of the closest allies to the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is rather made Minister of Mines and Solid Minerals, Dele Alaki? He's like me. He's grounded in communication, in broadcasting.
Yeah.
That's where he should be. So everyone expected him to be the Minister of Information. But they placed him in the place that, things are going on there to checkmate what is happening there. You think it's by chance? Do you understand that?
So there's an industry there. We just can't see the benefits
was it not Femi Falana that said it the other time that how many million dollars worth of gold leaves Nigeria? Is it every day or every month? In Dubai market, you have a place for Nigerian gold.
I've never heard Nigeria as a major supplier of precious minerals, but I know we do have.
Are you serious?
In the country, it's almost like we don't tap into it, but people are out there doing it,
taking it, but selling it at their own, and government is not even looking into it. That's a problem.
Is it just government, or are the people actually aware that is actually happening?
Why do you think there's unrest? I'm asking you again. So you think that the traditional rulers in the north don't know they have natural resources? You think they don't know that there are people mining it? You think their money does not exchange hands? Hello. So one question I'm asking, after gathering all this money and saving it and chopping and milking, to the extent that you gather the one that will be more than enough for all you and your unborn generation, what next? Maybe they will die and leave the money. Would they go? And now this is money that would have used for the upliftment and better of the entire country. A few persons would pocket it. So that's why you see our politicians live in affluence. Why the people live in penury. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So let's go back to the other question you asked me.
No, because it was important because you had to make that relationship between what is happening now in the democracy. And that's what I'm really, because something I'm investigating. It's a trend now. You see a lot of military coups happening. So I just wanted we'll go back.
Okay, to why we've had surge of military coups. So it's simple. It's just simple. What are the characters, or what are the basic characteristics of your African leaders? They have one thing in common, or so many things in common. Stay put syndrome.
Stay put syndrome. That stay there forever till you die. They stay there
forever. And then, corruption. What quality of life are they giving to their people? What quality of governance are they giving to their people? Have you ever seen anywhere that someone is enjoying good governance and then I say, military come and take over? Have you ever seen it? Do you understand?
Yeah.
You have an African country where, for instance, you have the president of Equatorial Guinea, who's been president since 1979, and his son is now his vice president, and his son lavishes money endlessly, has properties across the world, buys Bugatti and all of that. In fact, the son has so much money that in 2005 he invited Eve to come and spend holiday him, Christmas with him, because there's too much money to spend. He has so much money that he keeps lavishing money in the UK to the extent that UK barred him. Don't come to our country again. This money you're spending is too much. Have you seen when you spend money to the extent that the country bars you? Don't come to our country. I'm telling you. And
Oh yeah.
and that's a country with a population of just 1.7 million people.
With annual exports that can literally make everybody in the country comfortable.
They are one, of course, they're an oil producing country,
Yeah.
right? I mean, one of the greatest oil producing countries in Africa, with a population of just 1.7 million people. Just 1.7 million people. They are not plenty.
Yeah.
But you have a son of the president lavish wealth in that manner. And hey, over 70% of their citizens are poor. By poor, they live beyond $1 daily.
That's
But
what
in
I
a
mean.
country where you have a son, so tell me, why would somebody think of a queen in that kind of country?
I've seen it
Do you
before
understand?
where they were like, if you look at the exports of the country based on its resources, every citizen of the country, because it's a small population, basically based country in Equatorial Guinea, can literally
So
live.
let's even go to Gabon that it just happened.
Yeah.
The Gabonese former president,
Same human is son.
the one that died. You understand? How did he rule the people? I mean, he was there for how many years? For 40 something
For
years.
something years.
His son came and
over.
took over. And how did he better the lives of his people during his rule? That's the question you ask. How did it change? Now, Gabon is just a population of about 2.5 million people, and they're the fourth oil producing nation in Africa. What are they doing with the money? Should you saw all their politicians that they were catching with plenty money they were running away with. Ask yourself, those monies, wouldn't it have bettered the lives of their people? So now, when you have a situation, for instance, I like to make a reference to the Cameroon.
Beer.
Brothers.
Beer. People forget about how long.
Beer, who first of all was a prime minister. I think he became a prime minister in 1975 thereabouts.
Yeah.
Macron was not born yet when he became prime minister.
Yeah, he basically lives in France now.
Do you understand? And then Macron, even at the time Macron was born, he became president in 1982. Macron was just about 5 years old when he became president of Cameroon. And Macron lived to become president of France. And he's still president of Cameroon.
And I don't even know if he's the president of Cameroon. I don't even know who rules Cameroon because he's never there.
Exactly. And the southern part of the English-speaking southern part of Cameroon has quite a higher substantial amount of the natural resources, the oil that they use, that the country lives in. What is the life of those people? And by the way, that part of the country has been in war.
Yeah, it's been war. It's always the trick, right? It's been war.
That part of the country
there has been a lot of like really bad stories coming out of that part of the world. Yeah.
So now tell me, how do you think the people of that kind of country will be happy with leadership? If you were military, they will do not. Now you see a country like Niger, for instance. Did you know about the election that brought Bazoum to power, the outstep president?
Oh yeah.
That election happened. People were not pleased, or there was a rerun, and there was riots, and people, even when they announced him winner, our president Buhari then supported him a lot during the election. And there was a riot. People were like, "I no go agree." There was protest after the election because they didn't want him.
Yeah.
And eventually he took over power. And then for an election, so now let me even ask you, all the military coups in Africa, have you experienced anyone that was with bloodshed?
I think that's the really interesting
the military
thing.
Coups had no single death. No single death. But there is no election in any country in Africa that you don't have scores dying. In this our own that we just concluded, over 70 people died.
Yeah.
There is no election in Africa that at least somebody will not die. So is it better to have coups that are bloodless, that secures and saves every life, that accounts for every life, than to have elections and to force yourself in a democracy that, lies don't matter? Which of it looks like a coup now between the two? Hello?
That's true. I don't think we have enough of a conversation about the system of government that we run. For me, does it really matter if it's military, monarchy, whatever? But what I always keep asking is the level for developing country, the level of bottlenecks that come with democracy, and the level of, as I said, inefficiency or lack of accountability that also comes with it, right, is something that has to be discussed further. Because when I look at a lot of the top, because there has to be a reference to what you're looking at least when you're a developing country. You look at China, you look at a lot of the Middle East countries and the system of governments they run. Obviously, the Western world always writes.
Just look at the Asian countries that you're there. I mean, let's not go Middle East. Normal Asia. See the Malaysians.
See now,
Thailand. They call them industrialized countries.
Singapore.
They left us. They left us and ran away. We left the one
Singapore, look at it.
that me for them.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
This is really crazy. They don't even have as much natural resources as we have. Oh.
There are many of those.
They don't have.
I'm trying to think of a name for those Singapore, Malaysia.
I've forgotten that.
Yeah, like the regional name. But yeah, a lot of them don't have as many natural resources. They have just built it through a lot of industrialization, technology,
and they utilize their
manufacturing.
using their population for their own good.
Yeah.
Our population is like a curse to us, but their population is like a blessing to them.
Right, like talking about the coups in Africa. One that has been pretty interesting to follow has been the ECOWAS intervention, basically, obviously led by the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, right? On the Niger coup specifically, but also in general, their whole stand about democracy must be here. We cannot let it go. What is your take on that whole position of ECOWAS? Because in my opinion, I'm just going to give that before you start. I just think all of them are just scared that they're next in a little way. But in your opinion, what do you think?
Okay, so speaking about that, first of all, I'm sure that Niger is very much ready and waiting for ECOWAS to intervene and use their military might on them. And some other countries still that had coup in the past, like Burkina Faso, Mali, and they're also waiting because they've also thrown their weights behind Niger and they're waiting. So I think that instead of trying to use might to want to quell this whole surge, I would rather that African leaders rather think deeper. I would borrow the words of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, where he said that African leaders in ECOWAS should rather deal with the cause of the sickness. Deal with the sickness itself instead of treating the symptom of the sickness. Because the military coups are just symptoms of the sickness. What is the major cause of this military coups? If you are giving your people fantastic governors, will there be a military coup? And ECOWAS has deliberately kept blind eyes to it. You see, a president of a country use his legislatures, tweak a constitution to make him run for third term or remain there in office. ECOWAS will not say anything.
They won't say anything when that would be considered undemocratic.
You will see an election that is almost like a sham of an election. People dying, ballot paper snatched, this and that happening. ECOWAS will not say, oh, you have ECOWAS observers in elections. So they will not say anything. So why will they constantly look the other way? When it comes to the rough amongst them, because they're all the same. They're all benefiting from that same rough. They're all one and the same. But then you want to come and tell me, it's just like, how do I put this now? A thief wants to, you cannot be a thief and you want to tell me how not to also steal. Yeah. It's not possible.
Especially when I know that you actually steal.
Especially when I know that you are. So I think that's yes, they are scared. You've seen the president of Rwanda, whom in fairness, Rwanda is the fastest growing African nation. In case you know. Kagame, yeah. Rwanda is the fastest growing African nation. Remember that he's been their president since after their own civil war, where they had that Tutsi crisis and,
the whole genocide.
Genocide. And he's been their president since 2000. Because those things happened in the 90s, you know that. So he's been their president till 2000. But in fairness to him, even when he wanted to step aside for an election, his people said, no, we want you. Why? Because they're seeing the dividends of democracy.
And there's actual dividends.
It's actually working better than, it's like it's working at a faster pace. They've almost long far forgotten the effect of the genocide on them. They're moving forward. But wait, we'll see they ask, where are you from? Are you outside Yoruba or Igbo or where? Do you understand? We're still battling with that. How many years after Nigerian independence? How many years after Nigeria's civil war? We're still facing, that those kind of crisis. So it's a serious issue. So we need to do better.
Yeah.
We need to look. The leaders need to look at themselves. What are they not doing? But unfortunately, it is every one of them is there for their selfish interest. So it doesn't matter even if they kill the world to take over power. And if it continues and they continue the way they're continuing, we would certainly keep seeing, military coups happen. It's not magical because are you not surprised that these coups happen at the jubilation and celebration of its citizens?
Most of them.
Almost all the coups. Is there anyone that the citizens don't support? All the coups were supported by their citizens. What do you need as a democratic president? Is it not the support of the citizens? How many of these presidents are elected with the support of their citizens? Let me give you Nigerian election for an instance. We have a population of about 200 million people, right? And by the last election, we have over 70 million people, as registered voters. In fact, over 70 million people collected their PVC. About 70 million people collected PVC. PVC. Do you understand? And over 80 million people as registered voters. Do you understand me? Now, with all these people that collected PVC, at the end of the day, in the election, how many people voted? Just about 24 million people was the total number of votes. So 24 million people were the people who helped make a choice to decide how 200 million of us will run. And then let me just break it down for you. And the person who won the election got 36.6% of 24 million votes. So that is about just 8 million people are the ones that put us in the condition. They're the ones who decided who will rule us.
And then we'll rule for 4 years.
Will you tell me that kind of president is elected by popular demand? Is it the will of the people? Hello? Does that represent the will of the people?
That's also interesting when you talk about the party system. If a smaller, narrow tree of a party system is better compared to having 50 political parties. Because what also happens is when you have so many political parties, now that splits it into the votes into so many people. And then you don't have up to anywhere close to 50%.
Even when we have 50 political system, I mean, this election is the only election where we've had 3 or 4 serious contenders. Every other election, the other ones are just
feelings.
So they're nothing. So I don't think it's about the political, the number of political parties that we have.
So since we're talking about the election, in your opinion, relative to all the other elections that you have monitored or observed, the last election, as flawed as it may be, how does it rank to other elections in terms of being a free and fair election?
So this election would have actually been one of the freest and fairest we had if the electoral umpire had allowed it work. Now, the reason I said this is that INEC ensured the use of beavers. So if you notice, one of the things that occasioned the low number of voters that we had is because beavers worked. So there were no incident forms. There were no inflation of numbers.
Ticking.
You understand? We were during the election, we were expecting votes from the Kardashian states. We have states that we call Kardashians in Nigeria. Sorry,
imported. Can you explain?
The Kardashian states are like 3 hefty states in the north that come with the biggest result: the Katsina and
Kanu, right?
Yeah, Kanu, Kaduna, Katsina. The 3 of them. So how many votes did we have from them? Kanu would have ordinarily, trooped in over 5 million votes or 4 million votes. Yeah. If you compare the number of registered voters they have and the number of people who had PVC, Kanu just did a little bit above 1 million.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Kaduna, Katsina. What were those numbers? Because PVC, and that's because even the PVC did not even totally eliminate on underage voters. They still voted. Yeah. There were still instances of underage voters in this election. So imagine when we now did away with underage voting, and then we allowed the technology work. So I think that this election would have been awesome and amazing if the use of beavers was employed as stated and allowed to work as it should, and there was direct transmission. It would have been the best election Nigeria has ever had. So one of the reasons why it looks like it's election that Nigerians are most disappointed at is because it's as if you slapped Nigerians and you say, don't cry. Do you understand? You made all these promises. You made all these assurances. You promised that you give me life, and you took the life from me. And you're telling me there's nothing you can do, go to court. That's the reason why.
So there was a lot of optimism going into this election.
There was lots of optimism. People. Do you know how many Nigerians flew into Nigeria from other countries to come and vote for this election? How many elections have they done it before? Because they know their votes won't count other times. So the reason they did it this time because they thought their votes will count.
Yeah.
Do you know how disappointing it is? You know the price of airfare. Do you know how disappointing it is? So that's the thing. So there was a lot of optimism. This election was election with the highest awareness.
Mm.
For the first time, we saw Nigerians aware. They were aware. They knew what they wanted. And Nigerians were even being the ones doing campaigns. Say, have you gotten your PVC? Go, Nigeria. Do you understand? That was that awareness. But at the end of the day, it's as if the hopes of the common people got crushed with the way the umpire handled the election. So,
and the umpire will be the INEC chairman, right?
Again, I mean.
I just wanted to clear that because I heard umpire, but for anybody that doesn't know what that means in the election,
And
that
that's
would be the
not
INEC
just
chairman.
the INEC, the decision of the INEC chairman. I still believe that the INEC chairman himself, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, would have insisted that the system worked if he wanted to. See, it's just like in committing crime. If you're in your room now and you commit crime against government, and you're in one place in your interior village, they'll find you. In Nigeria, they'll find you.
So when the government wants to get something done, they actually get it done.
That's why people are saying. So if you can get something done when you want to get it done, then why are we like this? They will get it done.
Yeah.
If you commit a crime and if they want to come for me, they will come for me. I don't even have to. If I like, hide anywhere. They will catch you if they want to.
If they actually want to get you.
So what is going on with that's why I told you the whole insurgency and all of that happening in the north is politically motivated. You think there aren't people benefiting from it?
Oh, there has to be. A lot of times, a lot of instability is created so that you can actually have less ways to actually account for stuff, right? If there's instability, nobody knows what's coming in and what's going out. So there's somebody actually benefiting from it. Talking about Nigerian politics can literally get your blood pressure.
I'm not hungry now. I was not so hungry before.
Okay, I want to switch to a more lighter note, right? Based on what you do. I know that as part of what you do, right, working in radio stations for a long time and stuff like that, you've had to do, you mentioned it the last time, about doing like calling shows and stuff like that. And I was kind of interested in finding out relative to people that you talk to, right? Where do you think Nigerians are in terms of their quest for love and relationships and partnerships and stuff like that? Is it that the country is hard? That one must be hard too.
Love is harder than the country. Because you see both genders dealing with each other heavy blows.
What are the things that you're observing that they're dealing with? What are the major things happening in Nigeria that are bigger concerns for both
for relationship people is basically either promiscuity or infidelity. It's usually the problem that most people in relationships.
What about the financial side in the relationships?
And the financial side now, and they also lead to the other side. They say naturally romance without finance is annoyance. So that's part of the problem.
I want to hear that again. Romance without finance is annoyance.
So it's a problem. So that's again is a thing too. So yes, paucity of funds. Boy likes girl likes boy, but who have fun now. Sugar daddy did somewhere we could bring something. I guess or maybe another guy likes girl too. Another guy likes girl too, and he has the money. And girl has waited and waited, or more. The future is not looking bright. The light is not at the end of the tunnel. She follows the other boy, and there is, in fact, she may even cheat. A lot is happening. The most that I would say that I don't like to. I probably would mention that and call it my most disappointing aspect because it's got to do with my gender. It's paternity fraud.
In my opinion, it's not talked about much, but it's actually, in my opinion, more prevalent than it is because people don't question it as much as people question
that
other
if you
things.
trace it now back to our forefathers and you realize there's so many parts. Your grandfather may not be the child of his father.
I won't be surprised.
Do you understand?
Like these things, because there was no DNA testing or anything like that. Everything was based on
but it's
trust.
not shocking to me how a woman will go to another man, get herself pregnant by the man, and come and keep straight face and innocent face in the house of another man, and you actually let another man nurse and love the child of another man
as his.
It baffles me. So I mean, that's for me, that's the most serious crime in relationship that anybody can commit.
Is that so? That would be something that you have observed
Oh,
that's
it happens a
actually
lot.
shocking to
It
you.
is shocking. It's happening every day, sir. It's happening. In fact, there are girls now who would get pregnant and say, "I know see no my boyfriend give me. I know see no be my boyfriend give me this belly, but I won't rub for anybody." They'll give it to him.
They'll give it.
It's a norm. It's normal.
It's actually more common. Oh, okay. I actually think it's not something that people talk about a lot, but in terms of how the culture is and stuff, is DNA testing now becoming a thing? Do you
It's
think it's
becoming a
now
thing
becoming a thing?
among those who have the finance to fund it
So it costs
because
money,
it's
expensive,
expensive
yeah.
to I think I think this is even getting a bit cheap. I think about 150,000 or so you can do it in
Eh?
Nigeria. Yes, I hope so.
That's not very accessible.
That's another issue. So because of how expensive it is, not everyone can afford it. So it becomes challenging because I mean the normal granite seller boy cannot go run a test on or DNA on the orange seller's girl.
Conscious
That's
girl.
so
Yeah.
it's
So everybody just
yes.
takes it and takes
So you just
responsibility.
or you run away or the men say look, oh, men elope a lot on women. Oh,
Mm.
they put them in a family with the bail, and that again happens a lot.
Oh,
That again
okay.
happens a lot. So you see a lot of women who are pregnant without a man being responsible, and they get to want to work hard and almost kill themselves to take care of. So I think, see, these are laws. These are laws that can be made. You know how the law in the US protects the woman from these kind of issues?
Yeah.
It should happen. And you know how I'm sure that there are laws against paternity fraud now too in the US. So
Yeah,
because
I,
the society is innovating.
I don't
Because
know if there is any laws
so
against
what I'm trying to
paternity.
say is that because the society is evolving,
Yeah.
lawmakers should also think towards
Evolving with
renewing
it.
and evolving with it too. So
Yeah. For is there any way that price could it be something that
it
government
should
can
be a
provide a
criminal offense
subsidy?
for you. It should be a criminal offense for all I care. For you to deliberately
Yeah.
give another man another man's child, it should be a criminal offense.
That's a
Because
lot
that
of
woman may die of heart
responsibility.
attack
Yeah.
because of the shock of that thing.
When he finds
So
out.
it's worth the woman going to jail for. If you ask my opinion, it is
Yeah.
worth it. Because it's just a huge man seeing humanity to another. It shouldn't happen.
Oh yeah, that to me, I think that's actually interesting information about that now becoming something that people are talking more about, that people are actually finding out, because a lot of times it used to just be, let's not talk about that. Like
Oh,
a
no.
woman would not do that. Like how would she
Am
do
I not a
something like
woman?
that?
I decided to talk about it because I'm a woman. So that it doesn't look like this is a man is the,
Yeah, trying to bring
trying
that
to
kind of
bring down women.
stuff up.
No, a lot of women are doing it. A lot of women are doing it. I don't want to give you instances. There's so many instances. A lot of women are doing it.
Mm.
And one of the things that is now bringing them out is this Japa syndrome. You want to Japa with family.
How does that relate to the job?
So you want to Japa, you go and do
Oh, you do
DNA.
blood
You do
work
blood
and
and
do
work, and
medicals.
bringing out a lot of people. There's someone I know that wants to japa with family because she's not sure her husband is the owner.
So
She's thinking towards it. She has told the husband, let's not japa again. Let's leave it.
So
That's
if you want to japa, for them to prove that that's your kids, you want to take along with
especially
you,
if the
you
man
would,
is a benefactor. So
yeah,
they have to they
do.
run a DNA test on. It's a thing now. So they are more upbeat and developed.
So they're like, you gotta prove that that's your kid. The marriage
Before you go carry
certificate
your
is not.
before you go carry your
Carry your
family people
brothers.
and community people can't carry
Don't
follow.
carry. Oh, okay.
So
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, that actually makes sense, because in my head I was like, what now created the trend? Because um organically people don't think of just standing up and doing it.
So
There's a lot of
Japa has been a real issue.
yeah, there's a lot of shaming that goes into it. I can just imagine that conversation. You go meet, let's say, your wife or something, and be like, I want to do a DNA test.
I'll be glad. I'll be glad if any man I have a child with says I want to do a DNA.
That's you. If
fact,
you're not sure it's the dad.
Why will I not be sure? That's the problem. Why will I stand up as a human being like this and I'm not sure who impregnated me? Why?
Because
No,
that
why?
also goes back to the level of promiscuity.
We don't have Angel Gabriel again in this life of today
to come and deliver
to
news.
do what he did to Mary. Do you understand? No, why will I not? Why will I? It's crazy.
No, but that's fact. But I know you're saying that, but I can imagine how those conversations would go. The level of you don't trust me.
No, it's okay. I would feel bad that you don't trust me, but I'm like,
yeah,
okay, good. But maybe the most I would do is because if I feel really, 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 really bad that you don't trust me, you would also lose the trust I have in you. Especially because I know that I would not have done anything otherwise.
But
You know how
but
when
that's
you're
also
accused
what
wrongly,
scares the man too. It's like, if I bring
but
this
the men
up,
can do these things secretly now. You go come collect her, collect this. No, the child is your collective. The children are your collective children.
that's true.
Do you
Until
understand?
until she
So
finds out and
so
the
your
trust is
husband does
gone,
not have to even know.
know that you're doing it.
So if I have a child with you, please, Mbak, go Yarisek, go and conduct private tests. Don't even tell me. Carry out a secret DNA. If you realize it's not your own, do with me what you wish. But it's painful.
It's painful. It's a real thing.
Aside, the fact that the man may have invested a lot of money in these children and all that.
Emotions,
Emotions.
time.
No, the part we're not even looking at is the psychological effect on those children. They're also human beings. Are they block?
That's the person that they have taken as their
Are they
dad
spoon?
forever. Yeah.
Those children will be forever affected by the outcome of that. By that knowledge alone, that the man I used to call my father is actually not my biological father. That knowledge alone. Oh, God bless you. Maybe their parents now know. They're not easy to rubbish them.
Socially,
It's
the
funny.
embarrassment.
Or maybe you now go to Ikeduru in Imo State to contest election. I say, you think you don't know who your father is? You don't know who your father is. You want to come and contest election. Your mother got pregnant for you from
And the
Akwa Ibom
problem
man.
now is
You know,
that
so-
you don't even, for most cases, can't even trace back to who your actual father is, which goes back to the whole social part. Like,
So then now what happens to the child? Because most of those children cannot get closure. And it affects them a lot psychologically. Oh, you wonder why there are people behaving anyhow?
it's a thing.
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah, it's a real thing. But yeah, that's very interesting.
So I think that people are just selfish. Both the women or the men, everyone is selfish. And in your selfishness, also understand that you have lives that you have brought into this world that this selfishness will affect.
Yeah. No, to me, that's like, you're just thinking about yourself. You're putting this level of responsibility on somebody else and not even thinking about how that would affect the child that you so-called love so much. Right? The other part I just wanted to know is, in the, like, with you talking to people in that whole relationship space, how important is love to people?
Nigerians like love. We like love. In fact, me too, I love love. What am I even saying? We love love. And
But the country is hard, though.
The country is hard. That's why I told you that romance without finance is annoyance. So when you be loving these days, you know what? Love used to be blind before, but our love in Nigeria now is now seeing small, small. You used to open one eye to see.
Yeah.
You understand? So yeah. So people are more very open to true and sincere, relationships and seeking for sincere affection too. But unfortunately, there's a trust deficit because it's difficult to trust either parties, especially when you're investing your emotions. It's hard, but then I think that people are more, I don't think, how fathers those days, forefathers, I didn't think they believed in love. It's just,
life was
you marry the daughter of this person and the women learn to grow, they grow to love the man or stay with the man, whether or not they love the man in that marriage.
You appreciate
but
it.
now, but now there is that awareness of, love, affection. I have to feel something for you. I have to,
So that's a real thing.
That's
okay.
a real thing.
That means things are getting better. I think love is a luxury. I think love is a luxury.
Why do you think love is a luxury?
Because when you have to deal with real life challenges, you pick, or like, as you said, like our grandparents, you marry this one, is good for you. You have to
I
born
do
children.
not think love is a luxury. I
No,
rather
really?
think that
I mean, like, in that sense,
okay,
marriage.
I rather think that loving and being loved back is a luxury.
Okay.
It's not everyone that has it.
Like
loving and being loved back is a luxury.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
So if you have it, hold on to it. Don't let anybody put some for your Gary. Hold on where.
And that's also something else that's interesting about it, about having it and holding on to it, because there's also, for a lot of people, the perception that there might be better out there, outside of what you have or what person that's loving you back. I don't know if there's so much out there.
There is always something better and worse out there in life.
And worse. Okay. I think that would be.
There's always something better and worse out there. So I think that contentment is key. If people learn to be contented with what they have, you'll be satisfied that what you have is the best. Because as you go out there, you meet good, bad, and ugly. And at each time, no matter what you have, there's always someone better than anybody you have.
Yeah.
There's always someone more beautiful, more intelligent, more richer, everything than anybody you have.
And then there's always someone there too that's worse than what you have.
Times than what you have.
That you're going to regret.
Like, I have seen my markup and I like it like this. Please take it. And cherish it and nurture it.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, I just want to get onto that whole relationship space on how it's actually working based on talking to people like as you do for a long time, as well. The other thing that I noticed that you have interest in is also like the financial markets. And the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that, and I had to ask, is does Nigeria or Africa have a financial market?
I've never done Nigerian financial market. I would never even dig into it. Yeah, there are a few. There are
There's
a
a
few.
Nigerian stock exchange,
Yes,
right?
yeah. There are a few shares in Nigeria doing well and all that, but no, you cannot compare to the market that I trade. I trade on the global market, and
Yeah.
that's where you really have the big deal, and that's it for me. And when you talk about financial market, a lot of people will like, okay, are you dealing with currencies now, stuff? No,
Forex or stuff.
no,
Ah,
no.
with the way Naira is doing.
I don't do
Hey,
forex, so I don't do currencies.
yeah.
So I'm interested in the financial market, but I rather deal with commodities and shares. So
And
that's the thing for me.
I want to hear about commodities. It was recently I understood that you could trade electricity, you can trade oil, and no, for
So
real, I've been going
I
getting
so
into
so
it.
so I'm actually more grounded, just like you said, in the trade of crude oil.
Crude oil is one you're more
Yeah,
grounded in.
crude
Okay,
oil on the
you
platform
can
of
trade
international market.
electricity. Like
You
that's
can trade
crazy.
gold.
Like
You can trade
trade gold.
gold. Let me even shock. You can trade cassava.
That's interesting.
You
I'm not
can trade
surprised
soybean.
anymore.
You can trade soybean even on the platform of the international market. You
Yeah,
can trade maize on the platform
that
of the
would be
international market.
interesting, especially with the Ukraine crisis and the whole grain. Yeah,
Exactly what a lot of people do not know.
yeah,
The thing about those is that you can treat them as a sport where you can take delivery of those products at the end of the day, or you leverage our CFD where you just contract for difference, where you just get to leverage on their price changes to make money.
yeah. Unlike major
Unlike major,
prices,
so what that means is that whether you're buying, whether the market is going up or
or it's going
down,
down.
appreciating or depreciating, you're making money because it's either you position yourself either in the buys or in the sells, and
Sells.
you
Yeah.
make money. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't know that from the comfort of your home. You
Yeah,
understand that?
I'm curious to actually ask a little bit of that because a lot of people hear about financial markets and trades. Few things that go to their minds is forex, stocks,
Mm.
right? Commodities is something that people don't know a lot
Commodities is a
about.
big. So for commodities, you have energy commodities, just like you
Yeah,
mentioned.
energy. Yeah,
You have agricultural commodity. You have precious metals where you have them gold, diamond,
gold.
platinum,
Yeah,
and all of that. So you have different classes of commodities,
yeah.
and all of these are tradable on the platform of the
On,
international market.
oh, okay. No, that's interesting. And people, I know the skills that go into trading them are a little bit more complicated. Just like the way you can actually read shares, and kind of monitor markets and stuff, right? But I think it's interesting, and I think it's a very few people that actually trade commodities, right? Because people look at commodities as things that you just buy and sell
No.
without knowing that you
So
can actually trade it on the
commodities are
market.
actually easier to trade. You know why? Because the forces that drive their volatility are things you can relate to.
Yeah.
For instance, there are forces that determines the volatility of crude oil. And these are
Okay.
things that you can feel. One, politics. You understand?
Stability of the crude oil
Of
producing.
what is happening in the oil producing
Yeah.
states or countries. Do you understand? And then, what is the indices report? You know that crude oil is the only commodity in the world where anything that affects its availability and productivity affects the global economy.
Yes, because
Right?
it's the number
And
one energy
yes,
source, right?
so far it's still the number one energy
Yeah.
source. And crude oil is not like any other business. It's not like gold where you go and you see a gold mine in your house and you dig it and it belongs to you.
Yeah.
If you see a crude oil well in your backyard tomorrow, it must be accounted for internationally.
Yeah.
So there is a status that accounts for all international oil wells, all oil wells in the
Oil
world.
was
So
in the
we know
world.
how many oil wells are functional, how many is not.
Yeah.
So it is a proper regulated industry where
So there's
there is
enough information to
enough
properly trade it.
information. Yes. So those information propel the markets
Yeah.
once they're made available.
It's something I'm actually want to look into because obviously the other markets are way more common, but it's very interesting that there are many things that you can actually trade because I was thinking about it like the time that Ukraine started the war and I knew that Ukraine is one of the highest exporters of grain.
Yes.
Immediately it came to my
That's why
head.
bread became expensive in
Bread
Nigeria
became
because there was, no substantial wheat.
wheat
So
and stuff like that. So you can actually, there are things that you can actually do if you understand those markets in general. But that's actually interesting. But I'm going to stop there for now. There's basically almost nothing you cannot talk about, which is absolutely great. Hopefully we'll get to do this again. I'm excited.
Hopefully.
I'm in Lagos here. It's been a good time. It's wonderful talking
I hope
to
you've
you.
had fun though.
I've enjoyed it.
Have you had suya?
Ah,
Did you have amala?
Abokisi. If there's nothing else, I've been eating well. That's,
Okay.
that's one thing I can actually.
Okay, just had to ask.
Yes, no, I've eaten everything. So it has been a good thing. But to wrap up, I'm going to go back to the random question for for this, which I would like to ask. So what I wanted to ask would be, in a situation, so it's basically, let's say you had it's a random thing, but it's just about the perception or the why, basically. So let's say you are guaranteed 1 million naira. It was a guarantee that you get the 1 million naira today, or you were told that you had a chance to get 100 million naira, but you're not guaranteed it. Which one would you rather take? So the whole thing is, which one would you take and why would you actually pick it? So it's more like, are you as they say, what you can see and have is your own, or you want to take a chance with it?
Piece on my hand.
Exactly. Yeah. So in your opinion, so it's just, I'm just putting out a number there, but the whole idea is, would you rather just take what you know that is here and you have it, or you want to go for it?
So as much as I believe that I like to work on my I like to work on my area of strength better than trying to better at my weaknesses. But I love to take my chances.
Yeah,
I love to dare. I love to take risks. So yes.
So you would actually go for the 100 million with the chance of not getting.
So you cannot be in the financial market if you're not a risk taker.
Of course, I already know that. I already know that. I kind of thought that would probably be your answer, because it's always the idea of actually taking risk that can actually pay great dividends, right?
I agree. Whether or not it pays, it's fine.
It's just let's do it.
And then you learn from it.
Yeah,
you're better at it and you move on. So
okay, so you're more of the person that is willing to take the chance for a higher dividend than
even for love, I take chances.
Love is always the problem now. Love is actually number one chance.
So I always take my chances, really.
Oh, okay. No, that's interesting. I once I asked you the question about financial markets, I was like, I already had that question, but I already know what she's gonna actually say. You gotta be willing to take risks. I wish I disappointed you. I would have loved for it. The last time it was actually something that actually, like, I was actually interested with the response you gave with the previous one with the taste and smell, right? But this one, I almost felt like I knew what the answer would be. But yeah, it has been fun. I loved it. Thank you, Precious, for coming. I totally enjoyed having the conversation. If it's just me and you, it's gonna be.
You don't talk. You've drained me. Oh gosh, let's go home.
Thank you so much for everyone listening. This is No Right, No Wrong. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it.
No right, no wrong, but it's so right, so wrong edition with Precious.
So, okay, I'm going to say that. I'm going to make sure I got exactly what you said. So it's no right, no wrong, but this is so right, so wrong with Precious edition or part 2. If you know, there was this also part 1. Yes. Thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. It's No Right, No Wrong. Thank you all for listening, and peace.